Hello YouTube. What I'm going to show you how to do today is how to assemble your Besta cabinets. I'll show you what they look like on the wall on the video thumbnail, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this from the very beginning, unpackaging it, assembling it, hanging it on the wall. So you've got your packaging, go ahead and get that open, get all your parts out. I'm just going to show you how to assemble the small cabinet. The large cabinet is basically the same idea. It's very simple. I don't need the instructions. I've done this before. But basically, you get all your parts together. So you got your little parts back here with your feet. I'm going to be hanging it on the wall, so I won't be using the feet. But I will be using all the other small parts in here for the most part. Let's get all the components out first. So I'm grabbing my cordless drill, and this one allows for you to adjust the tension on there, like how strong this is essentially. So I'm going to put it on the lowest setting because I don't want to strip any of these things out. So I'm going to start with one of the top and bottom pieces. That's what you have here. And then the other shorter pieces are the side pieces. I'm going to go ahead and just dump my bag out and then put back in what I'm not going to use. So the feet I will not use. These parts for now I will not be using. Or these clips that hold the cabinets together. I won't be using those for now. These are used when you put up the hanging hardware, the hanging rail, so I won't be using that for now. This I won't be using for now, the Allen key. These cover up on the bottom side if you're not putting the feet in. So I'm not going to use those at the moment. I'll put those out of the way. These little cabinet looking screws here, those are if you're going to screw some cabinets together. I will use those later, but not at the moment. So I'm going to put those in the bag. So what that leaves me are these little plastic circular clips, as can be seen here, and then these posts like this. So this is what you're actually going to put in your top and bottom parts. Basically, you just grab it, put your screwdriver in the screwdriver part, and then just zip it right in. Easy. So there we go. Do all four corners. There we go. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Might not be a bad idea to have like a moving blanket or a piece of cardboard on the floor as well so you don't scratch your brand new furniture. I'm not doing it because I know my floor is pretty clean, but if your floor had like a little sand grit on it or something like that, it could scratch it, so be aware of that. So your top and bottom pieces are ready. Now this is where you sort of have to pay attention because this is directional. So the holes you want to go on the top side, right? So this is actually the top piece because this is the bottom that we have our feet in. So I'm going to make sure those are facing towards the top. And then I'm going to go ahead and start assembling my side pieces. So you can see this little groove is here, and there's also a little groove in this piece right here. So this is going to slide right in where the grooves are. You can see that. Let me kind of zoom that in on the camera for you. You see how it slides into that slot. Just like that. And you're going to place it on your little studs that you have sticking up. And you're going to take your other side and do the same thing. Again, making sure that goes down in a little groove. Now from here, you grab some of your little plastic clips, and you're going to put those in the little barrel holes that are drilled. I didn't say barrel roll from Star Fox. I said barrel hole that these go in. And I'll move the camera so you can see this a little bit better. Okay, so basically what you're going to do here is you see you've got this flat side and then the half moon side. And then you'll see there's a little arrow on here. That's actually going to point towards the outer surface where you're going to place this. And actually, if you can see down inside there where the tab is coming up, so you want that to be able to slide past that tab. So the flat part is going to be facing towards the tab, and the arrow will also be facing towards the tab. And then you just kind of push it down into the hole. Then you're going to take a flat bladed screwdriver and twist it clockwise. So now I have the proper tool. Again, I'm just going to place the screwdriver in there and rotate it clockwise until it's good and snug. You don't want to Hulk torque it, but you want it to be nice and snug. And then I'm going to go around. There's actually 4 on each side. I'm going to go ahead and place, well, I'm going to do the 2 here, over here and over here. Then I'm going to do the 2 on the other side. And then I'll go ahead and place the bottom part on it and put them on there as well. So moving the camera, again, the flat side towards the metal. Stick that in. Rotate it clockwise. Continuing. Now I'll place on the bottom. And put the 4 clips in to hold that in. So there we have it. Your cabinet is assembled. So I've got a larger cabinet to assemble also, one that's twice as wide as this one with the divider in the middle. But the principle is the same. You're going to assemble everything the same way. You're going to put the studs in the top and bottom first. You'll place the sides. You'll make sure you slide the back piece in with the holes at the top. And everything just kind of pops right together. It's very easy. It only takes a few minutes. But I've shown you the basic process with this, so I'll go ahead and just assemble the other one to get it ready to hang on the wall. So one of the biggest things you'll notice with this piece is that you do have these longer little barrel, whatever they call these things, the little barrel hooks. Those are actually going to go in the center piece because the center piece is thicker than the side pieces. So be aware of that. So with this piece, what you want to be cognizant of is that you're keeping this track for the rear pieces towards the rear, and you'll be able to identify that because the track will be to the rear also. And so again, you've got these 4 longer pieces to go on this piece Actually, I'll flip this over so you can see it from that side. Doesn't really matter which side these holes go on. I'm just putting them on this side so that you guys can see them. Again, this is the same principle. You're going to take this flat side and put it near or closest to the metal part that's sticking through there. Go ahead and push that thing all the way in. I'll rotate it clockwise to hold it in position. There we go. I'll put one back here. And there you have it. Easy. Same thing with the side pieces. You see it does have the holes drilled in the top and the bottom. So it's not going to matter which side goes on top, which side goes on bottom. Just make sure that your track is matching with the track on the side. Again, you want to make sure your holes are toward the top, and then slide these into position right into your tracks. There we go. Then flip this over, making sure your track is on the back side, and pop it into place. And then just put in your little plastic anchors. You're good to go. Okay, for this next part, I'm going to join these two together. So the instructions say to use holes 3 and 7 right here. So I'm going to put 2 in the front, 2 in the back, and I've made sure that I've aligned this really well, nice and straight. You can use a straight edge or a level or something to make sure you're getting everything nice and straight, top, bottom, front to back, and then I put a clamp on the front, put a clamp on the back to hold everything in position. And then, again, using this on a very light setting so it doesn't strip anything out, I'm just going to run these screws in. And there we go. We're ready to mount on the wall. All right, so now that you've got your cabinets assembled and screwed together, the next thing you're going to do is go ahead and map out on your wall where you're going to want to place it. I'm going to want mine to go just above the power outlet there. I don't want it to be too close to the floor. I still want to be able to vacuum underneath it and whatnot. But that's where I want to place it. I'm going to center it on this wall between those two walls there. So I've got my tape measure, so I can measure that out. A pencil, so I can mark where I want to put it. Then what I've got is a level to make sure I can put the two tracks, because I got two tracks. I got one to go on this side and one to go on that side. I figured it wasn't really necessary to put one in the middle. The tracks are only $10, so if you want to buy a third one to go in the middle, that would be fine. It would be a little overdoing it. I didn't feel it was necessary in this case because I'm not going to be putting anything too terribly heavy on it. Just my gaming systems here and my TV. But with the two brackets, it holds a pretty good amount of weight. I've got two brackets holding this up, and it does just fine. And I've got a lot of heavy stuff in there, so I don't think it's going to be an issue. But what I've got here are these little wall brackets, drywall anchors. They're supposed to hold up to 75 pounds each. That's so I can get a couple of screws in where I am not going to find a stud. But where I do find a stud, I went ahead and got these cabinet screws 2.5 inches long. That way I can make sure I get at least one screw per rail in a stud. And I'm also going to grab a stud finder. I've got one of those out there too. Locate my studs where I'm going to put my rail and make the markings where I need to put my cabinet screws in. The other thing I'm going to do is measure from the floor to the outlet and then measure the back of my cabinet from the bottom to where the rail is going to go. That way I'm making sure I'm putting the rail on the right spot. So I'm going to grab my stud finder, find my studs, mark up my wall, and then I'll show you how to attach the rail. So this rail system is actually pretty simple. You've got the plastic parts that fit into the back of your cabinet here. You've got the rail which goes on the wall, and that's going to sit on the wall like this. And then you've got your bracketry that's going to hold basically what you're doing is put that through these holes here, these screws here, through the holes, and put this on the other side. And that's going to thread into the rail, kind of sandwiching all this stuff together to hold it in. But to assemble everything, basically you just take this part here, and there's these little holes on the cabinet. Sorry for the camera angle there. You just push them in. So I'm going to put one there, put one on the other side. Make sure that you're seated all the way in. And then when you place it on the wall, the rail is just going to kind of grab it like that. You'll see there's a little lip on the edge of the rail. That's going to slide up into the plastic piece, so it acts almost similar to a French cleat. So there's a little bit of movement side to side there. You don't have to be ultra precise when you're placing these, but the more precise, the better, naturally. So now that I've got this in place, I'm going to go ahead and take the measurements that I need. Again, basically from the bottom of my cabinet to the bottom of this, so I know what the clearance needs to be there. And then I'll measure from the bottom to the floor to make sure I'm clearing my socket. So, as you can see, I have my line for where the bottom of my rail should go. I went ahead and placed it on the wall and marked where I want my holes to be and where I want my cabinet screw to go in. So, I'm going to take these wall anchors here. These are pretty easy to use. You just put one on the end of your screwdriver, kind of press it in where you want it to go, and then start turning. And it'll kind of make a hole in the wall, and then pop right in. So I'm going to put those in place first. Go. And then once those are there, you're ready to place your rail. So this will give me one of these wall anchors on either end of the rail. And then right in the middle, it'll be in the stud. And these things are supposed to hold 75 pounds by themselves, supposedly. I wouldn't push my luck with that, because theoretically, if I put this up with just these, if it's 75, 75, 75, 75 for them, that should be 100 or 300 pounds worth of weight carrying capacity. I would not put 300 pounds on that cabinet. There's no way. But it should be pretty secure. So I'm not going to tighten these down all the way because I want to make sure my rail is right on that line where it needs to be. So actually I tightened that a little much. I think see how it kind of floats around a little bit. You want to make sure it's centered on there before you put your cabinet screw in. Or before you tighten your cabinet screw down, I should say. If I can find my cabinet screws. Here they are. I apologize for the shadow on the wall of my crazy hair. I'm sure it looks nuts. But I'm just working right now, so I'm not too worried about what the hair is looking like. Same story here. I'm just going to get this started right in the middle of where the hole is supposed to be so I can give it a little room to float around. So there we go. And I think what I'm going to do is get down here where I can see my line and make sure I've got everything centered where I want it, and just hand tighten these screws before I zip in that cabinet screw. I want to make sure everything's just right where it should be. Tighten these down, snug these up. I'll come back and finish zipping in that cabinet screw. And there we have it. I'm going to do the same thing for the other rail down there. I've done all the measurements. And then the next step really will just be hanging the cabinet on the wall and putting in the 2 screws on each rail that hold it in position. All right, so now is either the most satisfying or most disappointing step of all, hanging this thing on the wall. If all of your measurements were correct and everything, which I believe mine are, this will pop right on the wall. I've not test fit it yet, so you're about to find out if I'm good at using a tape measure or not. But at this point, all you do is pick it up and stick it on the rails. It's not too terribly heavy, but you might want a second person for this. And it looks like my measurements were spot on because it's on the wall. So from here, all you have to do is use your screws to secure it to the rail. So again, this part's pretty easy. You're just going to install your little screws to hold it in place. And that's how you want to orientate that washer, so that the outer ring is actually pressing up against the wood. And then just stick it in and thread the bolt in. Easy. And this doesn't have to be super tight, you just have to snug it up. Basically, it just holds the cabinet on that rail, preventing it from popping up on the rail, I guess, if somebody runs into it or something. And so here we are, the final result. You can see we have a nice floating shelf on the wall. It is supporting a TV, no problem, an old school LG. And not too difficult to do, really. I think all these components cost about just over $100. So I think that looks pretty sleek, pretty modern for $100. And not too difficult to do. So I hope this helps you out. YouTube, make sure you check out my channel, subscribe, hit the like button, comment, all that good stuff. And I thank you very much for watching.